Hey there. I'm excited to announce this to you today. This is what you've been waiting for in your spiritual quest. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm finally ready to announce it that it's ready to go. It's the Grief to Growth Community Circle. Now, this is a sanctuary where like-minded souls are united in their journey through grief and towards personal transformation. It's more than just a place, it's a beginning, it's a commitment to growth and understanding. Here you're finding not just a community, but you're entering a circle of trust and depth. You're going to engage with interactive coursework. You'll dive into exclusive podcast episodes and partake in discussions that illuminate the path from mourning to empowerment. This is a realm where every question is honored and every individual's journey is validated. To be part of this exclusive circle, visit us at grieftogrowth.com/community or look for the chat icon at the bottom of every page on the main website. Remember that entry is a privilege because I want to ensure that every member is as dedicated and genuine as you are. You must apply to join, but the journey within is worth every step. So go ahead and join us today. Check it out, grieftogrowth.com/community, and I look forward to seeing you there. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Grief to Growth, where we explore the most pressing and profound issues related to the human experience, from our struggles to our triumphs, from birth to death, everything in between, everything before, and everything after. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today I have the pleasure of introducing a guest who epitomizes the very essence of transformation and holistic well-being. His name is Lee Davy. He's a luminary in the fields of personal growth and global health. For over 2 decades, Lee has worn many hats. He's an inspirational author, a creator, a speaker, a retreat host, and a breathwork specialist, just to name a few of the things he does. He's the co-founder of Connected Community. He's the co-steward of the Unified Alliance and co-owner of Imiloa Institute. And if that weren't enough, he's also the founder of 5D Breathwork and the co-creator of the Breathwork Atrium. So to say that he's multifaceted would be an understatement. He's a true Renaissance man in the area of human potential. What sets him apart, though, is not just his expensive expertise, but his deeply rooted passion and his compassion for empowering others. He's on a mission to help all of us to understand and embrace our highest selves beyond all illusion, beyond all superficiality. So whether you're looking for one-on-one guidance or transformative experiences within a community, has been a beacon for countless souls navigating their own personal journeys. So with that, I want to welcome to Grief to Growth, Lee Davy.
Thank you so much for that, Brian. I really, really am grateful to be here and grateful to you for providing the space. So thank you.
Yeah, well, you're about what we're all about here at Grief to Growth. We're about helping people to make transformations. Your background is incredibly multifaceted, going from breath work, holistic community building. So can you take me back to what life experiences caused you to walk this path?
Absolutely. It's funny. It goes back to childhood, and around 12, 13 years old, there was I played hockey. I think I was on skates at 3 years old, and just kind of naturally had the physical side of things. And then my first love was bodybuilding. But I remember, when I started that at such a young age, there was a program called Body for Life, and it was a 12-week transformation program. And there was a book, and I was going through this book, and I just remember thinking, man, I've like, this challenge is cool, and but there's something more. There's this fire inside of me to do more, to be more, to help people. I don't know what it is, 13 years old. So sometimes I'm still not really sure, but I actually wrote the creator of this 12-week transformation challenge, and essentially in the letter I said, I've got this fire and the challenge is cool, but it's more than that. Maybe you can take me under your wing, give me a job, mentor me, something like that. And so thinking back, that was the first time I remember thinking, like, what is all of this? Who am I? Why do I feel so alone? Why do I have this anxiety? And of course, back then I didn't know what I was doing, but that was really the first step in this long lifetime journey of kind of putting my own pieces of the puzzle together to feel better, to feel more comfortable in my own skin. And along with that journey, to let go of, the anxieties and some of the mental health challenges and even physical challenges to really you know kind of bring or clarify the picture
Hmm.
of what I'm actually capable of, and then somewhere along the lines that transitioned into supporting others in their journey. So
Yeah, well, that seems to be the way it works, I think, for people like us. We start off with our own anxieties, our own existential questions. Why am I here? Who am I? And once we feel like we're kind of figuring it out, we want to help other people along on the journey.
absolutely, yeah. I really feel like that's, if not the purpose of life, definitely one of them. And I guess it is different for everyone, but essentially it's, if I'm able to feel better, then why would I not want to support you in that journey? And it's, if you look at it from a quantum perspective, we are truly all one. And so if you're hurting, then I'm hurting, and on the flip side, if you're feeling better and you're more uplifted and happier, then then that helps me as well. So we're kind of all in this together, and I think we're now kind of crossing this bridge to that realization.
Yeah, so you've done quite a bit in the years since then. So what was that like? You said this started as a teenager. How did that manifest, like high school, college, or whatever you did after that?
Well, it's interesting. It first manifested in what not to do. So
Yeah.
band-aids, I drank a lot, got into drugs, and just was really, really, like, I guess partying, and whether that's an age thing or whether that was a, subconscious to dampen the pain that I felt. I imagine it was a combination of both of those things. But again, somewhere along the line, instead of, you know, dampening and putting that band-aid on the feelings of anxiety and um, panic attacks and all that sort of thing that I dealt with, it it actually heightened them to a
Hmm.
point where I'm like, I had to stop. I had to seek for something different and something else. And I would say that was, part of the drug and alcohol was a self-discovery, in a way that I wouldn't recommend to others. But again, it's, when you find out what not to do, it gets you closer to what you should be doing, and I think that was part of the process. And then from there, it was just, like I said earlier, just all of these pieces to the puzzle. And it's like, oh, working out, I feel better. Eating healthy foods, I feel a little bit better.
Hmm.
Breath work, I feel, so it's like every step led me to the next step in the journey, and
Hmm.
every piece of the puzzle, really allowed me to clarify my picture, and then find the next step when I was ready for it.
Yeah, and you've done quite a bit. So I don't even know where to start with everything that you've done. So where would you like to start?
Um, I mean, breath is probably one of the more recent tools, although it's been, 7, 8 years.
Hmm.
But I love starting with the breath because I mean, it's literally the one thing, the one medicine that we can't go without. We can go without food, we can go without water for days if we had to, but we're not going to get very far for very long without the breath. And using it as a catalyst to go deeper into ourselves, to get into a meditative state, to bring greater coherence to the mind, to release and flood the body you know, with a virus fighting chemistry, happy endorphins and feel good hormones.
Hmm.
It's, it really is the most profound tool that we have access to. And, it doesn't cost us anything to breathe,
Yeah.
but most people don't truly know how to breathe.
I'm hearing more and more about breath work. I just interviewed someone earlier this week that was talking about breath work, and I know you talk about 5D breath work. So what does the 5D stand for, and how is that different from other types of breath work?
It's five dimensional. It was just, something clever that kind of came through.
Hmm.
And, so Brian, with my journey, like I would, if I find something that really resonates as, one of my tools, or something that, I want to incorporate into my routine, I do my best to throw myself into it,
Mhm.
and really learn as much as I can, and really be able to do my best to embody it. And it was that way with the breath. I have a friend, a dear brother, who took me through a session, 7, 8 years ago. And something happens when you do this deep cyclical breathing, that if you're not used to it, when the oxygen within the system binds to your red blood cells, you can develop something called tetany. And it's when the hands and the fingers kind of lock up.
Hmm.
So I went through this first experience, and I had a little bit of that locking up, that happened to me. But the calming of the mind, and the energy that I felt, combined with that feeling of the tetany, my first thought was, oh man, like, I love this. This is definitely one of my things, and since then I just started to play with it, and that's what I'll take people to, in our sessions, is play with it, vary the speeds, vary the cyclical nature of the breath, vary the holds, because sometimes you'll hold on the exhale, sometimes you'll hold on the inhale, um, and literally just play with it and lose yourself,
Mhm.
and what I mean by lose yourself is the conscious mind, the thinking mind, the thoughts of, you know who we've come to believe or come to think we are, and you can, when you start to go through a few rounds of the breath, that thinking mind begins to quiet, begins to shut down. And that's all I did, was playing with it. And I started to lose myself in the process. And, fast forward to about 3 years ago, and at the end of 2020, I was in Vancouver at the time, just playing with it. I was with a buddy. We were offering sessions, so we were really kind of getting into a flow of combining it with sounds, and different types of healing modalities. And it started to take on its own, like, kind of multi-dimensionality. And then 3 consecutive days, I remember it just like it was yesterday. I was doing my own breathing. I would do it after the gym, and in that space of nothingness, in that space of kind of losing myself and shutting off my thinking mind, just all of the formula, if you will, uh, came in of, okay, like, you can create not only a breathwork practice from this for others, but you
Mhm.
can also create a teacher training, and what I call the breathwork deep dive. So it's taking people through this process. So all of the components for this method, this 5D method, came to me in a matter of 3 days. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't thinking about it or trying to make it happen or anything like that. It came through. I didn't even have any paper. I had to get a paper and a napkin from the front desk so I could jot down what was coming through. And then here we are, and the breathwork, the 5D breathwork method, the
Mhm.
teacher training, and now we're just about ready to launch the breathwork atrium in September. Is actually this weekend and into next week,
Okay.
has all come from me just losing myself in the process.
Yeah. So tell me about the breathwork atrium.
So it's a membership portal
Okay.
where people can access, all previous recordings. I do a weekly live session. We'll have, question and answers, like sessions. We're gonna have a whole kind of area where, the community itself can interact, and then also um, have their questions answered. We're going to talk about the science of it, a lot. So just essentially a membership portal where community can gather and really leverage the breath, and have it as a catalyst to deeper exploration
Mhm.
within, as well as just continuing to optimize the health within as well, and the physiology.
So breathwork, what type? I know it has both physical, I guess, and spiritual benefits. So tell me about what the benefits are.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many, Brian. It really is incredible. Um, you're gonna, and again, it's this idea, for anyone who hasn't experienced it, you might think, I breathe every day. And my question is, do you take time out of your day to sit and do deep, intentional belly breaths in a cyclical nature? Because when you do that, not only are you expanding the diaphragm, but you're filling the lungs and all of the cells to a capacity with which the way most of us breathe in our daily lives does not happen, you
Hmm.
know? And so through this process, through this cyclical nature of the breath, you are creating, and again, if you make this a regular practice, you're gonna generate what's known as mitogenesis. So the mitochondria, the powerhouse, the energy production component of the cells, is going to continue to increase. The microtubules, the little hair-like fibers within the cells, almost like scaffolding of the cells, they're going to begin to let go of denser energy, and it's almost like a, without getting graphic or anything, it's almost like a snot-like substance that will weigh down and slow down the vibration of the microtubules. And
Hmm.
so with the deep cyclical breath, you'll be able to liberate some of that stored energy. So they'll begin to oscillate and vibrate at a faster rate. And so cell communication, energy exchange, and the actual emittance of light is what these microtubules are responsible for. And so it literally will allow us to emit more light and coherent frequency,
Hmm.
where there's a release and change in the chemistry. I mentioned the happy endorphins and feel good hormones. It's like, the body is infused and upgraded with super powerful antioxidants, with um, you know uh, dopamine, with even DMT in some cases, dimethyltryptamine. And so
Hmm.
that's when the pineal gland, that little gland in the very center of the head, it begins to activate, right? And there's these little calcium carbonate crystals within that gland that begin to shimmer and shake. And so when that happens, not only are you kind of upgrading the chemistry within the body, you're more able to perceive the unified field, this field of energy that is all around us, that we're literally swimming in, that is us, but through the perception of our senses, we perceive ourselves as separate from it, and or
Hmm.
that it doesn't even exist.
Yeah. Wow. And
So that's just a little bit.
sorry.
So that's just a little bit. There's
Yeah.
there's so many benefits.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good benefits in terms of physiological stuff and also spiritual stuff. So thanks for taking me through that. To talk about some of the other things that you've done, I was really interested in your connected community. What is that, and how does it play into your larger mission?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, something I want to tell you about today. My podcast platform, Buzzsprout, has recently made it easier for me to allow you to support me financially. Go to www.grieftogrowth.com/subscribe. That's grief, the number 2, growth.com/subscribe. And once you're there, you can sign up to support me financially. Now, you can do it for as little as $3 a month, or of course, as much as you'd like. If you do that, you'll get access to bonus episodes, and you'll see those in the regular feed. They'll have a lock on them. But when you become a subscriber, you'll actually get access to your own private feed, and you'll be able to listen to the regular podcast along with the bonus podcast for the subscribers. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for sharing the podcast. And I want to thank those of you who support me financially. Have a great day, and on to the episode.
So that was born in Vancouver, kind of alongside the breathwork
Mm-hmm.
um, training and that sort of thing. And at the time, we were hosting, in-person events, and we created some online courses and that sort of thing. And that's, I would say, that's migrated. It's still, I think, the energy behind the connected community and what we did at that period of time um, is still here, but I feel like it's expanding, and to move beyond just a region and expanding more into kind of our global connections. And that's really what I'm excited about now is this expansion, and can almost think of it as, or I like to think of it as creating bridges, so we're creating bridges to solutions, to products and services that will allow every individual to feel better, to optimize, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, the
Hmm.
amount of energy that they have, reducing their stress levels, all of that sort of thing. And we're creating bridges to and between each other. All of us that maybe are just a little bit further ahead on the path, that have solutions, that have, podcasts and broadcasts, that have, land and community projects for, for people to really connect to. And I feel like together, collectively,
Hmm.
we're we're creating a bridge to a new way of being, a new way of living, and you know, ultimately a new world, and one that really works for every single one of us.
Okay, so it sounds like connected community is expanding and still evolving.
It is,
Okay.
and uh, I would imagine that was an initial step in the process, and that leads really to today. Like, we're actually this weekend I'm hosting an online summit called Unleash Yourself. And that summit we'll have 30 speakers over 3 days sharing, their perspectives on peak performance, on overcoming, what we're calling the blue collar mindset to be able to optimize really every area of your life. And again, that's that bridge to the solutions, to the speakers, between the speakers,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's going to continue to expand into, I've been very fortunate over the last 8 or 9 years to be able to travel to some amazing places, and there's community, there are solutions, there are people talking about freedom and health and regeneration, and all of this is at our fingertips, and now we're just creating the bridges so that everyone alive is able to realize that these things exist and can now access them.
Okay, yeah. So tell me about Unified Alliance, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Is it Emaloa?
So uh, Imaloa is actually so that's something that I was recently, so I was a founding family member of it, and it's a retreat center
Hmm.
which I've recently moved on from. So the founding family has they they essentially ended up going a different direction, and we were able to help get it started, and
Okay.
now move on from that. And the Unified Alliance has now morphed into Origin.
Oh,
And the story with the Unified Alliance really is, I've had this vision for over 10 years, and I was originally calling it the Global Collective Consciousness Platform.
hmm.
And then it morphed into what we were calling Light, which stood for Leadership and Innovations for Global Health Transformation.
Okay.
And I had written a white paper on it, and all that sort of thing. And but like it was always super visionary and super kind of like pie in the sky, altruistic. I don't know how you want to say it,
Hmm.
you know. But then fast forward to um, again about 3 years ago, and it morphed into the Unified Alliance, and it was like, okay, this might be something that I can ground into, um, something that's actionable, something that can actually support people in the real world. But
Hmm.
it was still a little bit up here, and really over the last 5 months, that has transitioned into Origin, which is more of a media component, and supporting and bringing together, you know, media like yourself that is sharing amazing stories and people and their journey and solutions, to say, okay, collectively we come together, this is how we can change the narrative, and then Unleash Yourself is an event, and the first of many, I imagine, where again it's bringing together and highlighting all of the solution areas, I call them, that have the tools, that have the products and services, the coaching platforms, the retreats that can support the people crossing that bridge to begin to optimize their mind, body, spirit selves, everything that we're talking about.
Sure.
And then Coherence is a newsletter that essentially is the pulse for the larger community. If you have a solution, then you can share about it in Coherence, and the whole idea, the whole journey is, again, to create these bridges to what I look to think of as true freedom and fulfillment. And that's in how we show up, in whether we're expecting anything or not, whether we're wearing masks or not, how authentic we're able to show up. And even to the point of like things like travel and moving beyond borders, and the money that we generate, like these are all things that we should have total freedom and control over, but because of the way societal conditioning and programming, if you will, we've kind of given our power away to the external person, thing, or circumstance, or governments, or doctors, or and I feel like these are steps and bridges for us to be able to take all of that power back. So sorry about the long-winded answer, but it was it's been a journey.
No, well, it is. Life is a journey, and things are constantly changing and evolving, and technology changes, and we learn things. So it makes sense. You build something, and then hopefully you're constantly evolving it. I mean, otherwise things get stale and they die.
Yeah, absolutely. And the amount of change, like, it seems like it's continuing to exponentially increase
Right.
at a more rapid rate.
Yeah. Well, if you think about even, we were talking about 2 or 3 years ago, not many people knew what Zoom was. I'd love to see what's happened. I don't know if they're a private company or not, or they're public, but we've all said, okay, we can turn to the internet, and we can do so much more. We can do global reach. So you talked about, building local community is still really, really important, but now we can literally build global community.
Absolutely. And it's I like this idea of yes and, so it's not let's do this or this. It's like yes and, like we need to build the local communities. And then, for anybody who's traveling or wants to, it's like, hey, this is and this is that idea of creating the bridges between the communities and the ecosystems, is to say, hey, you know what, you feel like traveling, you want to come to Canada, we've got all this happening in Canada in these locations, like come and join the community here.
Sure. So where do you see in the coming present or future, where do you see this evolving to next?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi there. I'm really excited to tell you about my latest ebook. It's 4 lessons that you can learn from the near-death experience without going through all the trouble of dying to learn them. I've been studying NDEs for several years now. I am completely convinced that not only are they 100% real, but that there's some very universal wisdom that we can get from the near-death experience. And I've distilled that down in this book into 4 short lessons. And I've also given you all the reasons why I believe that NDEs are absolutely real. So go to www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons to pick it up for free. www.growth.com/NDE lessons. I hope you enjoy it.
Again, I feel like this is a step. I feel like we're kind of on the bridge of remembering fully how to co-create. Up until now, I feel like we've still kind of been in silos, and almost operating from the old patriarchy, the old scarcity and competition mindset. And I feel like now we're on this bridge to saying, okay, like, again, if you win, I win. and it's not like I can't do this because you're doing this. It's like how does my piece fit with your piece, and how can
Right.
we collaborate and co-create so that like the saying, a rising tide rises all boats. It's
Right.
like how can we really come together to bring our pieces together, so that we all win. And I think it's this transition from competition to collaboration and co-creation, from the old world of scarcity and maybe even a little bit of deceit, to really showing up fully, honestly, um, nobly, to support each other and really shine light on what each other is doing, rather than saying, I can't share my clientele with you because, like, for me, I want what's best for the individual. If that
Hmm.
means they come through my ecosystem and end up with you because they resonate more with your message and with your tools and with what you're offering, I want what's best for the individual.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you talk about something called radical self-responsibility, and you talk about living from higher laws. So what does radical self-responsibility mean, and how does it lead us to greater freedom?
Mm, I love that question. And so again, this shift, right? From and you can relate it to, if people have talked about the difference between the Newtonian model of reality and the quantum model. And the
Mhm.
Newtonian is cause and effect, and the quantum is causing an effect. Newtonian is I'm going to perceive through my senses, and I'm going to kind of likely give my power away to the external person, thing, or circumstance, and I'm going to look at my results, and that's going to cause me to think certain thoughts and take certain actions, and probably I'm going to produce the same results. Whereas the quantum is saying, you know what, I'm going to shut all of that out. I'm going to think and feel, and marry my thoughts with an elevated emotion, and I'm going to cause an effect. And I'm going to become the creator of my reality. And so, radical self responsibility is to say, I'm actually going to take responsibility for all of my own thoughts, feelings, and actions. I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm not going to say, you did this to me, because ultimately it was my decision to interact with you anyways.
Mm.
So if we take that full responsibility, then it's saying, no matter where you are in your life, you got yourself into it, which means if you got yourself into it, you can take yourself wherever you want. You can get yourself out of it. You can continue on the same path. You can, up level and upgrade, so, and then, once we've done that, and are able to, really begin to operate from the higher laws, and the foundational law is the law of love and what is true,
Mm.
and love allows everything. Love requires us to feel everything. Then we've got the universal laws, and the universal laws, like cause and effect, or the law of polarity, or the Genesis principle. They provide a mathematical um, framework from which everything in our material world comes from. And these laws are happening in our lives anyways. But I don't know very many people that are saying, you know what, I'm going to tune into the law of polarity today. I'm gonna read it a few times, and I'm going to really do my best to align with it and work with that law in my life today. you
Mm.
know
Okay.
and and then we've got the laws of the soul. And the laws of the soul are, essentially, they should allow all emotion to pass through us freely. But somewhere in our younger years, we learn to hold on and suppress feelings, rather than, if we're angry or sad, or that sort of thing. As a child, if we had just continued to throw that tantrum and feel those emotions, then our soul would come back to this place of purity, of homeostasis. But as it stands now, so many of us have this backlog that we've created, and some would look at it as the subconscious mind. And so now I've got to go back, and I've got to unpack all of these undealt with emotions, and if that was already clean, if that was already pure, something would happen in my life now, and I would feel the emotion, and then I'd be free again. I'd come back to homeostasis. Where it
Mhm.
sits now, it's like that then gets into the queue of the backlog of the undealt with emotions in my subconscious that I've still got to unpack. So we get all of those energies, all of those laws into alignment. And then in this reality, I can express nobly, humbly to my fellow women and men in that radical responsibility and say, you know what? Maybe you're not aware, but your actions right now are, they're causing me harm.
Hmm.
And if it continues, I'm going to consider it a trespass, and then you'll be liable, instead of calling the cops or calling a lawyer or, like, again, like pointing the finger and playing the game. It's saying, you know what, I'm going to show up fully. And it's not to get you. It's just to let you know that, like what you're doing right now is, it's almost like setting up no trespassing signs,
Hmm.
and our body is our property, but how do you know if you're trespassing, if you're doing something that's causing me harm, unless I'm able to, again, humbly, nobly, with the intention to remedy any and all controversy,
Mhm.
unless I express that.
So I heard you talk about several different laws and different levels of laws, and how do we deal with them? So is this something that you teach people that come to you, what the different laws are and how we start to live within them?
Yeah, and this is something, again, that I'll be sharing this weekend, but I call it the freedom method.
Okay.
And it really starts with the individual. It really starts with knowing thyself, and if you're listening and you maybe haven't gone on this journey yet, this personal growth, this deeper understanding of, of who you are and what you're capable of, step one is opening, open to the idea that, you know, new potentials, new possibilities, the idea that you can create uh, a new identity for yourself. And then once you open up, it moves into step two, which is essentially, you know, beginning to, with disciplined practice, implement the things that will allow you to show up more fully, and whether it's breath work or movement or nutrition or detoxification or, whatever those tools are, when you start to discipline, and show up firstly for yourself to implement those things,
Mhm.
it takes you into step three, where you're able to really begin to operate from that space. The tools and the things that you're doing become less of a thing that you're doing outside of yourself and more of an embodiment of who you are and how you show up in the world. And then this leads essentially to step four, where you start to really align yourself with these higher laws and be able to take this radical self-responsibility to express yourself, to own all of your own stuff, and to, at times, lovingly hold others accountable when they trespass against you. And this journey, in my eyes, will lead every single one of us to total freedom and fulfillment on every level in every area of our life.
Yeah, it sounds great, and I think it's interesting because I work with clients and stuff too. The more I do this, it's like you need to practice. You need to have tools. You need to understand what the laws are, and it's actually work. It's work to be
Mhm.
to fulfill yourself, but it does lead to that freedom that you're talking about.
Absolutely, Brian. It's I often say it's the most difficult, beautiful, painful, glorious, amazing journey that anyone could ever go on. And it's also the most noble endeavor, I believe, as well, to truly know yourself. And one of my favorite quotes, know thyself and thou shalt know the universe and God,
Yeah.
and it's true. And as I said earlier, as I know me, I know you. And so I can have more compassion, I can have more understanding, and I can show up more fully and authentically.
So that leads us to, what do you think is the reason why we're here? Why are humans? Why do we exist? Why are we here?
I think we're here to learn. I truly believe that at some level of consciousness, at some level of awareness, we choose to come back, and we see all, we know all at that point, and we're like, oh, these are the mistakes that I made. These are the things that I didn't learn. This is the work that I have left to do. Okay, I'm going to come back and get it this time. And then obviously we come into these forums and we forget, that we had these agreements, and that we wanted to work on these things. But the beautiful thing I feel about the period of time that we're in now is that veil, of knowing all and seeing all is getting super thin, and we're remembering, oh yeah, this is a journey. I did choose to come back, and so to have that presence of mind in every moment to now say, even though this, I'm perceiving this situation or this circumstance or this interaction as less than optimal, it's actually an opportunity, and it's not an obstacle. It's and it's not happening to me, it's happening for me as an opportunity to learn, heal, and grow. I get the lesson, I get to expand, I get to thin that veil even more, between the self that I think I am and that self up here that chose to come back to learn and remember all of this.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned, well, in the breath work, you mentioned 5D, and you also talked about the veil. Excuse me. I know a lot of people think that the veil is thinning. They think we're moving into 5D consciousness. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think we're, and whether it's you just take a beat on that one. That's a good question. Yeah, and people talk about wars and stuff like that, and I don't think it's a physical war this
Mm-hmm.
time. I think it's on our consciousness, and so to be able to move from a third dimensional Newtonian cause and effect level of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
where we're playing the victim, to this idea that actually I'm a creator, I'm a co-creator. I'm not here to work a job that I hate and push paperwork all day and feel stuck and and unhealthy and unenergized. It's actually the opposite, and I think that shift in perspective, that shift in consciousness, for us to take our power back, to take radical self-responsibility, to level up our energy, deepen our connections, and to really become the co-creator in our lives, and to support and lift each other up. To me, that's the difference in, between a 3D and a 5D. And I feel like the energy itself is is more palpable. It's more, um like, because of the heightened actual frequency that we're not able to see, but I know so many people are feeling it, and whether that is manifesting as headaches or stomach pains or emotional releases or conflicts in your environment, it's because that energy is so heightened that the density that was within us, and even in our surrounding environment, and those things that are being hidden or were being hidden, we can no longer move forward with that level of density. So our bodies are clearing out. We can no longer move forward with that level of shadow. So things are coming to the surface,
Hmm.
and people are thinking, oh my God, like the world's going crazy. It's always been like this. It's just been so well hidden. And now everything's coming to the surface so we can actually heal.
Yeah, I think it's a great way of looking at it. And as I look through humanity's history, it's interesting because I think for most of our existence, we were very spiritual beings. We were very connected. We knew this deep in our hearts. It's only been the last couple 100 years we've become so materialistic, and we feel like and so things have got even more dense. But on the other hand, we have all this technology that's allowing us to free up. We've got more prosperity than we've ever had, in our lives. So I feel like we're going to come into a point where we do have the prosperity and the physical, comforts and stuff. and we can live from that higher self at the same time, which we've never been able to do in history.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. I love that. And I feel like there's a real opportunity for us as womankind, woman and mankind,
Yeah.
to really, come together in a way that's never been done before. And, through that, I think it's going to create so much more, at least I imagine it will create so much more equality all around the globe, and there won't be the 1%, the dwindling middle class, and then, people that literally can't put food on the table. I feel like, things will eventually start to right size so that, it's more equal across the board. At least that's my my imagination and my vision and my faith for us. I really feel like we can get
Yeah,
there.
I can definitely see that. As the world gets smaller in a sense, as we're all more interconnected, as so now that people are aware of what's going on, all the inequities are the rise to the surface. They're not necessarily getting worse; they're just becoming more visible.
Hmm.
But it's really interesting. Last week I was in DC, and I went to visit the African American History Museum there, and it can be really challenging to see the history of African Americans or Africans on this continent, in Canada and in the United States. But it was really cool because the way they set it up is you start on the third floor, it's underground, and the part up we went to so you start on the third floor down, and you work your way up. And as you're going through the history, you see, even though it's been a long, hard struggle, things are getting better. And I think that's the same thing with the way the world is now. We have to, if you look at a lot of things, it does look like it's falling apart. But if you look at historically, things are mostly getting better. And it's a
Hmm.
matter of what we choose to focus on. And with this, what you're talking about is let's focus on, let's create it, let's keep creating. Let's not, get stuck in the past. Let's look forward to what's coming up.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I love the quote by Einstein. We can't solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know the problems are there, but if we're focused on the problems, we're never going to see the solution. So, like, having this awareness that, okay, these things are broken, we could do better in these areas, these societal systems, so on and so forth. But now I know it's there. I'm going to turn my attention over here to say, okay, how what are the solutions? And where can we create these bridges to the solutions, and ultimately to this new way of being for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been doing this for a while now. Have you thought about legacy? What it is you'd like to leave as you go forward?
Yeah, it's I want to leave that path. I want to leave an example for just for others to be able to truly feel at home within themselves,
Hmm.
and to be able to just optimize, the matrix, the mind, body, spirit aspects of the self, and really align those aspects of who we truly are, to embody the highest version of us,
Hmm.
and so, like, some of the retreats and, um, some of the technologies, I'm really embracing some of the new external technologies. I've got this healing device. It's called a terahertz wand that, it's basically like a blow dryer, but there are three or four different technologies within it that, when you run it over yourself, it carries the frequency of optimal healthy cells. You know, red light therapy, ice baths. So there are all these external technologies
Hmm.
as well as the internal technologies like meditation and breath work and, some of the things that we talked about, that if we combine them, and when we combine them, and this is part of the retreats, and I want to create centers that are going to allow people to combine these internal and external technologies to optimize how they think and feel, to expand their level of conscious awareness, their overall health, to align the mind, body, spirit aspects of the self, so that they can become the embodiment of that highest version of them. And I feel like that's the path we're on. That's what I try to do the best that I can to be an example of that, and
Sure.
and to walk that path in my life. And so that's what I wish for us all, is just to be able to embrace the highest version and live the highest, best life that we possibly can.
Awesome. That's a great goal. So you have so much to offer. So if someone's listening to this right now and they want to know, well, what do I do next? What do you recommend? What's a good next step?
I mean, you can connect with me on probably Instagram is the kind of the lowest hanging fruit.
Okay.
And it's at 5D breathwork. I've got my link tree and all that sort of thing in there. If you wanna really dive into the breathwork, you can check out the breathwork atrium, or again, just shoot me a message and we can have a discussion about whether it's that or the deep dive. I've got a master class that you can try. And depending on when this is aired, and you may want to cut this out, but the Unleash Yourself event this weekend is from the 9th, 10th, and 11th, with the 30 speakers. We're going to be talking about all of this stuff and much, much more. And if I imagine I probably shouldn't even have said that, but otherwise, take a look at origin .network, and that will have a connection to essentially all of the different things that I'm doing now and that will be coming up.
So origin.network. Yeah, this it won't be out by this coming weekend, but it's also evergreen, so people might be listening to this 5 years in the future. So just knowing where to go to find out where your current stuff is probably good. So is origin.network, is that right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Well, what's the last thing you'd like to leave our listeners with? What's a message you'd like for everyone to take away from this?
Somewhere along the lines, I imagine so many of us have learned, and maybe even been programmed to believe that that we don't have any power, that we don't have that others are maybe more capable, or have been more lucky, or have been in the right place at the right time. But the truth is that we're all capable, that we all have these gifts, that we all have the potential to make manifest everything that is in our heart. And I was saying this yesterday, that you have to do the work on your own, but not like when I started this journey, I thought I was all alone. You're not. And so the work you have to do on your own, but the journey you don't. So whether it's me or Brian or any of the other speakers that he has on, or any other mentors that are talking about this sort of thing, or have solutions or tools or services to help you to get out of that frame of mind, get out of that feeling of stuckness, of not enoughness, of disease or health or unhealth, whatever it is, look to them, reach out for help. It's actually, and as a man, we've been taught that weakness is asking for help, weakness is showing vulnerability, and it's actually the opposite. So embrace vulnerability, embrace the idea that maybe you need help, and ask for it.
Yeah, I actually love the way you put that. I've never heard it put that way before. You've got to do the work on your own, but you don't have to take the journey alone. And we all need those mentors, people to remind. It's not to teach us so much; it's to remind us. So we need those people to remind us to, because a lot of times we'll close ourselves off and we'll say, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. And none of us is meant to do that.
Absolutely.
That was
Same
weird.
with that.
Yeah, that was weird. Your mic just muted. But we're coming to the end anyway. But Lee, I want to thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'll have links to your resources in the show notes for people, to your Instagram and everything, so people can reach out to you if they'd like.
Beautiful. Brian, it was such an honor. Thank you so much again for having me, for, sharing your genius and for what you're doing and what you're bringing to the world.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right, brother. You too.
Bye. Hi there. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the podcast, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What questions came up for you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? I invite you to visit us at growth2growth.circle.so. That's grief, the number 2, growth.circle.so, to continue the conversation with me and with other listeners. It's a space to sound off, to share reactions, and to go deeper into the topics from the show. I look forward to chatting more, and I hope to see you there.